Hey, it's me again, Sylvie Curry, and today we're going to be doing some baking. I'm going to be making some naan bread, N-A-A-N bread. And we're going to do this from scratch, and that's going to go with my dinner tonight, which I'm hoping will come out okay. I'm going to be doing some tandoori chicken on the grill. So let's do this. We're going to make naan bread from scratch. Here we go. These are the ingredients for my naan bread. I'm going to start off with some sugar, and I've got a teaspoon of sugar, a half a cup of water, and that's warm, not hot, warm. I've got a packet of active dry yeast, and that's about 2 1/4 teaspoons. I have a half a teaspoon of salt. I've got a half a cup of sour cream, and ordinarily in this recipe you would be using yogurt. Don't have any. All I have is sour cream, and I read somewhere where you may be able to substitute sour cream for the yogurt. We'll see. I've got 1 tablespoon of oil, and that's olive oil. I've got 3 tablespoons of butter, which I'm going to melt, and that's going to be the topping that's going to be going on the bread once it's cooked. So it'll be butter, and I'm going to infuse it with some garlic. In addition, I've got some cilantro, and I'm going to chop this up a little bit more. And in some of the bread, when I roll it out, I'm going to put that cilantro in it, and then we'll also cover it with some butter and garlic when we serve it. Let's put this together. To start out, first we're going to bloom our yeast. And I'm going to take the sugar and add it to that warm water and give that a little bit of a stir. I'm also going to take my yeast, I'm going to add it to that warm water, and we're going to let that set for about 10 minutes, and it will bloom. We'll come back and I'll show you what that looks like. The whole blooming process is not that you have to bloom before you start cooking. The idea is that you want to make sure that your yeast is active and that it won't fail on you, so that you get the response that you need from your dough when you get ready to cook it. Our yeast is bloomed, and you can see all that frothy in there, so it means it is active. So now we're ready to add it to my flour mixture. And I'm going to pour that on in there. In addition, I'm going to add my other ingredients here, and that includes the oil, and that's olive oil. Probably could have used vegetable oil, canola oil, any of those. And I'm going to add my sour cream. Get that going in there. And our last ingredient is going to be the salt. I'm going to get all that off of there. I'm going to incorporate the flour into those other ingredients, and we'll make a dough. Now, a couple of ways that I could have done this. I could have put the flour on the counter and just mixed it up. I could have cheated and put it in a food processor or a mixer and mix it up. But today I'm going to do this by hand. And it's suggested in this recipe that this gets kneaded for about 10 minutes, and that's going to be until the dough is nice and shiny. It can form into a ball. I'm going to continue kneading this, and we'll be back when we get ready to move on to the next step in making our naan flatbread. I did wind up completing the kneading of the dough on the counter just because it actually is easier than trying to do it in that bowl. What was I thinking? So I'm going to continue that. We've been going for about 4 minutes now, so I got a little ways to go. I think we've got it to a shiny stage and it's smooth. So I'm going to form it into a ball. And I'm going to put it back into the bowl. I've got a damp cloth here that I'm going to cover it with. And we'll put it over there in the corner and it'll rise, double in size actually, and that should be within an hour or so. And we'll be back. It's been about 1.5 hours and I have my dough over in the corner. And actually, it got a little bit more than doubled in size, I would say. It's a real fluffy dough. So now we're going to take it and get it prepped so that we can make our naan bread. I'm going to divide this dough into, I think I'm going to divide it into 8 sections. We'll see how big those sections are. And let's do this. I'm going to first take some flour and lay it out here in the corner. And that's going to serve to keep it from sticking. Then I'll roll it out. There in that flour. I'm going to deflate it. So actually now it's very, very soft. Look at that. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they're not exact, but that's okay. Okay, one of those had a little bit more. I'll put it on that one. Then I'm going to take those sections. I'm just going to roll it into a ball again. I'm going to put it on a tray. I'll do that for all 8. Got my balls formed and shaped. I'm going to let these rest for about 10 minutes before we start to cooking them up and getting them prepped to cook up. My dough balls have been resting for about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to start rolling them out to make some naan bread. I'm going to take a little bit of flour, put my naan here on the counter. I've got a rolling pin that I'm going to use to roll it out. And we want to make it oblong. Something like that. And I don't want to be any more than about 9 inches because of the size of my skillet. And I'm going to take these that I've rolled out and put them over here before I cook them. And I said I was going to do a variation on some of them. Some of them are going to do something like adding a little bit of maybe cilantro and roll that out in the dough. And that'll cook in that bread. Add in another level of seasoning possibly to it. Okay, so now we've got a couple of them done. Let's go and cook these up. My pan is pretty hot. I can see it smoking there. So and I've got a little bit of oil on there. That's canola oil. And I'm gonna lay out my first naan. So immediately you see it start to bubble. I'm gonna turn it over. And you know that those bubbles that were on the front side are now going to get a lot more darkened than the other side. And that's the way naan bread looks. I'm now going to take that one that just cooked and we'll put some butter on it. I've got my garlic butter solution. And we'll just immediately run that over that. Now we've got garlic naan bread. I'm going to now put my cilantro naan on the plate, on the fajita pan, and let it cook up. These are bubbled up real nice. Let's turn them over. What I'll then do is take my garlic butter, spread it on my naan bread with garlic naan bread.